Hello, my name is Cesar, and today I'm here to talk about animal testing. Animal testing is a controversial topic, usually because of the ethical and moral implications of using animals as test subjects. But I'm here to talk about today to talk about why animal testing is necessary for making advancements in the scientific field and the medical field. And I'm going to do this because of three major reasons. Firstly, because the animal model provides relevant and useful information that is applicable to humans, that is really useful to make deductions and conclusions about how humans respond to different stimuli. Secondly, because of the animal experimentation allows for us to use it as a preliminary measure to use in clinical trials, which can be dangerous if animal research isn't there to prove its a study's effectiveness or its safety to do on humans. And thirdly, because animal testing is crucial to developments in human health and preventing diseases and preventing many ailments that we see in today's world. So first off, I'd like to talk about the animal model, which is basically the use of animals who have sufficient similarities to the humans in an anatomical way or genetic way, and this allows us to make important deductions about how the human brain works, how human genetics work. For example, a statement from the Museum of Natural History says that humans and chimps share a surprising 98.8% of their DNA, and most genes in humans and chimps are nearly identical. This is important because when you do testing on chimps, for example, it can allow us to understand how they operate under different genetic alterations and help us find the cause of different diseases. Not only chimps, but the major player in the animal testing field is mice. They make up for about 95% of the animals used in animal testing, according to the Foundation of Biomedical Research. And it is claimed that mice provide a way for scientists to manipulate the gene pool using what is called transgenic mice and knockout mice, which allows scientists to add genes or disable genes, and allows them to create specific gene alterations and genetic structures that can lead to us finding the cause or the cause of different diseases in that way by altering the arrangement of genes. And mice also are not only useful in the use of finding the genetic causes, but according to Philip Leader, the head of genetics, professor of genetics and head of the medical school at his university, he points out that transgenic mice have been used to test the safety and efficacy of new therapeutics and to detect biohazards and advance our knowledge of cancer. And this leads into my second point about how mice and other animals have been used to prove the effectiveness and the viability of an experiment or a procedure or vaccine or cure or whatever it may be by first running through animal trials and then using that data to then continue into clinical trials. For example, UCLA states that mice provide a way for scientists to manipulate, UCLA studies utilizing mice were the basis for human clinical trials in patients with metastatic breast cancer. This led to the breakthrough breast cancer medication Herceptin, the first cancer-fighting drug to successfully target a specific genetic alteration. So, as you can tell, to undergo clinical trials before the animal trials would be potentially dangerous and problematic to not only the human safety but human health. Imagine a scenario where you're a person with an ailment or a disease and you're selected to be a part of a research or a study, and there's no animal research to back it, so there's really no proof that it may be effective or may work or it's even safe for you to go through with it. Next up, I have another quote from UCLA that claims that the total artificial heart would not have been possible without first testing the device on animals. So this is also not only a genetic problem, but also a problem in the organs field or the surgical field. Undergoing new surgical procedures usually requires first testing on animals to test their valuability as a procedure. And finally, my final point is that animal testing is crucial to developments in human health, and this has been proven many times. For example, a quote from Matthew R. Bailey, the president of the Foundation for Biomedical Research, claims that basic animal research has led to the accomplishments of several winners in the Nobel Prize in Medicine, ranging from the discovery of penicillin in the 1940s to organ transplantation techniques in the 1990s. and to the most recent advance in malaria therapy, which received the award in 2015. So you can see not only all the way back to the 1940s, but even today and to the disease of tomorrow, we can see that animal research has been effective in providing the basis of developing cures and developing vaccines and solutions to these problems. He also goes on to say that animals are invaluable models for human disease and are critical in the studies of incurable diseases such as Zika, Ebola, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, HIV/AIDS, and malaria. Without research animals, the world may never have seen the deployment of vaccines against typhus, yellow fever, and polio. So in a world where animal research was prohibited or banned, diseases like the ones I mentioned, like polio, yellow fever, may be still running rampant today, and that would be quite dangerous for us. For my three major reasons, the fact that the animal model provides relevant and accurate research data without sacrificing the human safety, and the fact that animal testing has been proven to be effective in giving us relevant research and developing cures and vaccines, that is why I believe that animal research is necessary for scientific advances in the medical field.
Okay, the proposition is identified, but it's phrased like a question at the beginning, which makes it sound like it's going to be an informative speech. You want to argue that it is necessary to use animals to make these differences, and you just start off with a question. Why is it necessary to do that? And you're going to answer that question. So it's a little thing. It's an easy fix. So make sure that we don't run into that problem again. After that, the contents are really nicely spelled out. I do think you could maybe explain a little bit why there's a controversy on this, because people are objecting to the use of animals, or there have been movements to maybe abolish the use of animals in research, or it's been attacked, and then we would know a little bit more about why you have to make the argument that you're making. The internal structure is very clear and easy to follow. The secondary points are labeled like claims ought to be, and your explanations, I think, are generally solid. You seem to know what it is you're talking about. You speak, for the most part, without having to rely too much on looking at the notes, and you explain things to us pretty clearly. When there's statistical information on the genetics of the chimpanzees and the mice, for instance, I think you did fine in explaining that and why that matters. The viability of medical upgrades, so to speak, based on animal tests before we do clinical trials, I think that's an important explanation. People sometimes seem to forget that materials are not just tested on animals before they're given to human beings in general. They have to go through a testing process in human beings as well. So it's not as if human beings don't share the risks, but we're trying to minimize the risk to human beings as much as possible. And I thought that you did an okay job talking about that. I think you could use a little bit more information to support that. I'm not dissing UCLA. I think they're a fine institution. However, I'm sure that it's somebody at UCLA who reached these conclusions. If it's a singular study, you probably need to give us the title of the study. If there's a lead author, you give us the lead author. But like I said, the idea that the whole university is saying these two things that you've got here, I think that's a little bit problematic. And I know that it came from some legitimate research. It's just the way it's being cited, I think, is a little bit problematic. The generalizations seem reasonable at the end. I thought that you had a good summary, and you reminded us the point that you're trying to make, which I think is always good. You know what the real problem with animal testing is, right? It's really so hard for the little mice to hold the pencils when they're filling out the scantrons.